the Women's Center Gulrukhsor.
Gulrukhsor ayollar tashkilotiga xush kelibsiz.
به تشکیلات جمعیتی مرکز زنان گلرخسار خوش آمدید.
Добро пожаловать в Центр женщин Гулруkhsor.
Dear friends, thank you so much for coming today. It's wonderful to have you here for the launch of Women's Centre Gulrukhsor UK. My name is Vicky Fletcher. I've been a volunteer at Women's Centre Gulrukhsor here in Khujand for 5 years, and currently I am the chair of the trustees of Women's Centre Gulrukhsor in the UK. First of all, I wanted to tell you a little bit about my journey. Aged 29 in 2010, I was the director of a fruit and vegetable company in Evesham in Worcestershire. Working 100 hours a week, I decided that I wanted to do something different with my life. I'd been to Africa buying vegetables and thought that with my background in farming, history of sales, that I could make a difference with the experience that I had. So I applied to VSO, and I had visions of living on the slopes of Mount Kilimanjaro, singing in the village gospel choir and growing some vegetables. In the end, VSO sent me to Tajikistan. I had to look up where Tajikistan was on the internet, and the Birmingham-based Pakistani car spare parts dealer told me it was a very dangerous place, but if I was going to go there, please could I wear some more clothes. The only similarity it really had to East Africa, where I'd planned to be, was the Lada Niva. The Lada Niva that we drove up the slopes of Kilimanjaro in, and the Lada Nivas that are everywhere as taxis in Addis Ababa. So in 2011, I started working with Gulrukhsor, who's with you today. I did my year as VSO, this time working for the National Association of Businesswomen of Tajikistan. After my year stint in Tajikistan, I headed off to Russia for 5 years and was the director of one of the largest irrigated vegetable farms in Russia. But all the time, I kept in touch with Tajikistan, coming back for days off, holidays, helping writing projects, helping with anything I could. In 2017, I moved back to Khujand in Tajikistan permanently. And in 2020, crisis hit, not just COVID, but for our crisis centre, for Women's Centre Gulrukhsor. Gulrukhsor rang me and said, Vicky, we're going to have to close the centre. The staff haven't been paid for 3 months. They've paid for the electricity out of their own pockets. We've got nothing. There's no money. We're going to have to close. I felt that I couldn't let this happen. And so we started an online campaign, and we managed to raise a lot of money through fundraising online to save the shelter, to pay the back pay of the staff, to clear all our debts. And at this time, with COVID highlighting the dangers of violence against women, we were able to secure extra funding, and from then we've just moved forward and become more and more financially sustainable. That was 5 years ago already. For 5 years I've volunteered my time here in Women's Centre Gulrukhsor free of charge. My son goes to school here. We love to go up into the mountains, although this time not in a Niva, and the work here is very, very rewarding. My role is mainly in fundraising. Who knows how many grants I've applied for? Who knows how many reports I've written? But I guess it's approaching 1,000. But this kind of relying on grants, on donors for funding, it's not very sustainable. Donors have changes in their priorities. They often want you to do things that won't actually work. That's why we decided to set up a charity 18 months ago. This gives us the opportunity to connect with people who care about violence against women, who care about Tajikistan, and to give them a way of connecting with us, of supporting us and helping us to be financially sustainable in the work that we do going forward. I wanted to explain why I devoted 5 years of my life to Women's Centre Gulrukhsor and why I continue to devote my time and energy towards the organisation. And that is because this organisation changes people's lives. This organisation saves women's lives. You can see that what you did today had an impact, that what you did today made a better change. So I want to tell you a few stories of a few women to help you understand how we do this. Years ago now, one woman came to our shelter. She was being sexually abused by her brother. She was being stalked by her brother. He was forging documents to try and take her house and land away from her. She was very shaken up, in a very bad state, as you can imagine. But after a few days, she decided to leave the shelter. And when she said goodbye, it was really hard. She wasn't really ready to leave, but she had to go and sort out the situation, otherwise she could lose her house and her land. A couple of months later, this beautiful, shining, radiant lady walked through our doors, and we barely recognised who she was. But she had sorted everything out. She had her house, she had her land, her brother had stopped stalking her, she felt safe, she felt confident. It was a complete transformation. The strength that that woman found inside herself, to this day, I'm in awe of it. But also to know that our organisation, Women's Centre Gulrukhsor, supported her to be able to do that. There are many awful cases of violence. There are too awful to tell you about, even with numerous trigger warnings. Our dedicated staff sit up all night on suicide watch. Our dedicated staff have had 10 men walk into the office to demand to know where one of their wives is, where we've had to lock all the doors and windows at night and the gate to try and protect women from violent men. We have women here who we know their husbands are capable of killing them with dangerous levels of coercive control, of strangulation during sex, of acts of extreme violence against animals and other people that we know put that woman in extreme danger. Our staff are completely dedicated. We saved one woman's life as she was trying to jump off a bridge into the river, and our member of staff nearly fell in the river with her, potentially plunging to her death. Another woman who had swallowed too many tablets in an effort to kill herself. We have women with serious psychological illnesses that come here. We have women with mental disability here. We have all sorts of women here. We have some of the richest women here. We have some of the poorest women here. We have teachers, we have journalists, we have medical workers. All walks of life can come to our centre and feel safe, that you won't be judged, that everything you say here is confidential. Over 30 years of work, the trust with the local community has been built up. That's so important. To give you another example, a woman in her 50s came to us. Her husband is violent when drunk, has been violent the whole of their 30-year marriage. This time, he was angry because she hadn't asked for permission to leave the house. He beat her, not just once, but over a period of time, getting crosser and crosser, until she was lying on the floor. Her father-in-law had locked himself in another room and shouted at her to get up, run away. But she couldn't run away. She was on the floor. As she lay on the floor, her husband kicked her in the back and in the stomach. She came to our shelter for help. She asked for help for the first time in 30 years. And she went to the police. Her husband works within the government and he thought that his job would protect him. But the police told him, actually, this is the opposite. We have zero tolerance to violence against women. You will lose your job. At the same time, her son, 20 years old, is calling her on the phone, crying and desperate. Mom, don't let Dad get a criminal record. I'll have no chance of getting a job in the future if my dad's got a criminal record. Other people advised her, do you really want your alcoholic husband to be sitting at home all day with no money and blaming you for that? This is life. There are no easy decisions. She didn't want to get divorced. She didn't want to move out of her home. She just wanted to live a life without violence. So she didn't. She dropped her case with the police. But her husband came to us for counselling sessions. And she came to us for counselling sessions. They both spent hours in our office. In our office we have Shafawat. She's very experienced of working with violent and abusive men. And through this whole process, the man came to understand that the law does work. The police will take action. My wife does have someone who can protect her. So in this case, our centre acts as a deterrent for future cases of violence. And the woman tells us that 2 years on, for 2 years he hasn't been violent. She can, when situations escalate, give him a look and he will stop. He remembers that there is protection, that he cannot be violent. So many women come to us and think that there is no law, that they have no rights, that they won't be listened to. But when they come here, they find that that's not true. They find that they can get justice. They find that they can be listened to. They say, I know I have rights. I know I can be protected. I know I have a place in my own community, and I will hold my head up high. Our lawyer, Nazira, she's very creative in finding ways to get women justice, to use the legal system and the rights that are afforded to women to protect them. There is one more woman I want to tell you about. A young woman in her early 20s with 2 young girls. She's divorced. Her ex-husband lives in Russia. And she's living with her mother-in-law and father-in-law. In Tajikistan, if you don't have somewhere else to live when you get divorced, you can have the right to live back in your ex-husband's house. But as you can imagine, this is emotionally quite tricky. And her mother-in-law and sister-in-law were being violent and abusive towards her in an effort to make her leave. This young woman had already tried to kill herself a number of times. Up in the mountains, threw herself in the river. A shepherd had already dragged her out of the river once, saving her life. She got in a taxi with her 2 young children and travelled 4 hours to Khujand to apply to the authorities to try and resolve the situation. And they sent her to us. You could see that this woman was scared, that she didn't feel safe, that she wanted to move on. And then she later told us that if she was found, she would be killed. In the village, they said, any woman that dares to leave will come back dead. This had happened many, many years ago with one guy who'd killed his wife in that village. But that story, that legend, was holding women in its grip in that village, and it was still living on. So it's difficult to imagine the courage as a young woman that you need to find to flee in that situation, thinking that anybody who finds you will kill you, but that if you stay, you'll kill yourself. And at these critical moments, here is our centre, here is our shelter, here are our staff. We are there to provide safety, to provide support at these darkest hours. I wanted to close on a positive note, to say that change is possible. For 3 years we worked in rural areas with women who'd got disabilities and women with children with disabilities. When we first went to those areas, we found huge levels of trauma and huge levels of violence against women. But we worked with peer support groups with these women, with the police, with community leaders, with older women, with men, and we made massive change in that community. For example, one woman who hadn't spoken for 5 years started to speak again. One woman who had a limp and was ashamed of herself. She would sit down on a stone in the road every time someone passed so that nobody could see her disability. Now she dances at every wedding. Our team understand family relationships in Tajikistan. We know how to help people make positive changes in those relationships. With this knowledge, we can stop violence, either with the individuals who come through our doors or at a community level. It's very easy to say, why don't you just leave? But you have to remember all of the things that hold you back. And for example, 30 years ago, as a teenager in the UK, nobody in my class had parents who were divorced. There was a stigma to it. In Tajikistan, that's still the case now. Women don't want to be divorced. Men and women both have their role to play in preventing violence. Women who judge other women for being divorced. Men who encourage other men to beat their wives. If we compare to the UK, the number of women killed in the UK is proportionally higher than here in Tajikistan. But the prevalence of violence in Tajikistan is much greater. I haven't met a woman from our region who hasn't been beaten by their husband. I hope the small stories that I've shared give an example of why this centre is so important. That we provide a way out, that we provide a safe place, that we are able to support women to make the decisions that they want to make in their own lives, where families can come for counselling, where women can get justice, and for men and for women to see that there are repercussions for violence. And with this, we can see that we can prevent violence from occurring again in the future. I would urge you, if you can, to support us. A simple monthly direct debit will really give us sustainability to our centre. Tell your friends, tell everyone you know about Women's Centre Gulrukhsor, that we're grassroots, that we are trusted by our community, that we've been working for 30 years and that we really, really make a difference. Your support means that when women are in their darkest hour, there is a safe haven, and that safe haven is Women's Centre Gulrukhsor.